Uh, Great. So welcome to the Leveraging the JCC Network session presented by JCC Association's Experience Team. If you are able to and willing, please turn on your video screens so we can see you, all the participants can see each other. That would really be helpful. And just give you a brief introduction to the team. So the Experience Team serves as the bridge between JCCs, the JCC Association, and external partners, fostering collaboration across the JCC network. We manage the JCC Resource Center, which is a repository of field-focused information for JCC professionals, and we distribute information through briefs, which is our newsletters. The folks on the shared screen are the members of the Experience team. So there is myself. I am the Director of Resources and Communications at JCC Association. My colleague Lila is the Associate of Resource and Communications. Gabe Moss is the Chief Experience Officer. He's not able to join us on this call today. And Asher Newman is the Associate of Data and Data Measurement and Impact. And today's agenda is to cover these basic topics. Each one of us will talk about one or more of these. And then we'll ask if you have any questions at the end. If you're able to, please log into the JCC Resource Center so you can follow along with what we're demonstrating. If you're not able to log in, you could try to use the forgot password function on the login screen. And if you're still not able to log in, please send us an email at database@jcca.org, and we'll get it figured out after the call. And with those words, I'm going to hand it off to my colleague Lila to talk about the first functionality in the JCC Resource Center.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Gladys. I'm going to share my screen in case some of you aren't able to get in to the Resource Center. You can see what I'm doing over here. So this is the JCC Resource Center, and we like to think of it as like the one-stop shop for all JCC professionals. It's the place to come to for tools and opportunities and resources that would be useful for your work. This is the home page, and as you can see, there are 4 blue tiles here. We're going to cover each of those today, and I'm going to talk about the first 2, resource libraries and email lists. So we're going to start with resource libraries. On the top left, you can see that resource libraries are sectioned out into program areas and operational areas. So depending on your work area, one of them would be more helpful to you. We're going to just go through the arts and culture section a little bit to get acquainted with what types of resources are available. So in arts and culture, you can see there are a few different pages, and each program or operational area will have different pages depending on the materials available for that section. Just to take a look at some of the pages, if we look at the programming and support page, this page is really going to be a great resource for any arts and culture programming. It's structured out into different categories. As you can see, there's film, there's music, there's literary arts. If you can scroll down on the right, this is a clickable table of contents. So if I'm interested in photography, I can click photography and be taken straight there. All of these resources, well, for the most part, they come from you guys. They come from professionals at JCCs who usually send them to us via the email post@jcca.org. So if you see your resources included on any of these resource library pages, we would really appreciate it and like to add it. And that would be a great way to get it to us, that email. One other thing about these resource library pages is that they're organized in reverse chronological order. Just want to mention that. And we try to include as much as we can the date and the JCC that they came from. Another page that most program and operational areas have is the staffing and operations page, which will include job descriptions for different work areas and roles. So if you're looking to create a new job description, you don't have to create one from scratch. This is a great place to come and get some inspiration or use it as an example. They also include, as you can see, this one has hybrid workplace practices. So there's other information in addition to just job descriptions. And lastly, for arts and culture, I want to mention the arts and culture professionals peer community. So most program and operational areas will have a peer community, which is a great way to connect with staff at other JCCs who work in a similar area as you. A little bit later, we'll talk more about peer communities, but just so you can get a sense, on the peer community pages, there's information on the chair of that peer community. And if there's an upcoming convening, we list that here as well as a registration link. So there's one for arts and culture happening in December. There's also resources from previous convenings if you joined in your role more recently and you're still curious about the conversations that were had in the past. I want to mention that some of these program and operational areas are restricted. Most of them are open to all JCC professionals, but for example, there's a CEO and executive director category that's only visible to CEOs and executive directors. There is an opportunities section here on the left, which we have training and cohort learnings. If you can click into that, you can see that there are some open to all JCC professionals, and there are some for specific work areas and roles. We also have networking and gatherings. So this is, again, where you can see more information on peer communities. Here is a list of all the peer communities we offer, and these are each pages you can click on for information on that particular community. Hopefully there's one of interest to you. And then lastly, in this opportunities section, we offer scholarships. Sometimes it can get a little bit hidden down there, but I just wanted to give that a shout out. So you can read about the scholarships and our partner programs that we also offer scholarships through. One other key function of the Resource Center, since there's a lot here, it can be sometimes a bit overwhelming to navigate, but we have a great search feature. And I'm sure most of you everyone's familiar with search. This is a really powerful search tool. It will give you a page that you search for. In addition, it also has the power to search within PDFs. So just to give an example, let's say you remembered from this call that I spoke about scholarships, but you've forgotten where they were. So you can start typing in scholarships, and as you can see, pages are going to pre-populate. The search will think you're looking for one of these particular pages. So you could click on one and be taken there. Or if it's not exactly what you're looking for, I'll keep going just to type out scholarship and hit enter. And this will search across pages and also, like I said, within PDFs and particular resources on a page. So the blue up top here is a page. This is a scholarship and financial assistance page. And then it's also pulling from within particular PDFs on that page. Now to talk about this second tile, the email lists. Email lists are a great way to communicate also with staff at other JCCs around a shared interest, so similar to a peer community. You can click in here. So these are all of the email lists that we offer. We call them email discussion lists. My colleague Gennady in a bit is going to talk about how to subscribe and unsubscribe to them. But once you are subscribed, you can send a message to that email list and it gets sent to everyone else who is subscribed to that list. It's a great way to ask a question, to share something with your colleagues, things like that. There's also an email list search feature here. So let's say you started in your role on the newer side and you're wondering if there was already a discussion on the email list that happened. You're able to search here. And like the resource libraries, most of the email discussion lists are open to everyone. You don't have to be subscribed to it to search. There are some that are restricted though, like the CEO list. And the search goes back to 2014 all the way to the present. So you're able to search a lot of material. Just to do a quick example for how to use the search, I'm going to move the date range back. You're able to select the dates. If you want, you can select a certain list that you want to search from. You can enter any keyword. So let's say I'm a fitness professional and I'm curious if there were any discussions around fitness equipment. Maybe I'm looking to change the ellipticals in my gym. So I'm going to type in fitness. And I want to do 2 search terms. So I'm going to hit plus for another search term, equipment. If I want, I can narrow down my search even more by selecting 1 or more JCCs. I'm not going to do that for this purpose. And then if I hit search, I can see I got over 200 results. And I can scroll down and see if anything is popping out that fits what I'm looking for. Seems like there was a lot in membership. Oh, so there's one on sound system in fitness center. Not quite what I was looking for, but that seems of interest to me. So I can click on it and I can read the discussion that happened. I can also send myself a copy or send it to someone else, maybe a professional or my boss who I think this might be of interest for. And that is it for email discussion lists. Gennady is going to talk more about the Resource Center.
Great. Thank you, Lila. Let me take over the screen sharing from you. And let's see what we got here. Okay, can you see my screen? Yes. Okay. So one of the great features that we have at JCC Associations is the JCC Association database, which houses thousands of staff from across the JCC movement, as well as information about the 172 JCC community centers and camps across North America. So how do we find information about all of these great things? Is through the Find People and JCC search. I'm going to click search. And right now we're ended up in the People tab. And the best way to showcase this is through an example. So let's say I was at a conference and I met somebody whose first name is Amy, and I remember she works with older adults, and she seemed really informed about the older adults area, but I don't remember anything else about her. So I'm going to type in her first name, Amy, and I remember the work area. So I'm going to choose older adults here. I'm going to do search, and I see, there's 2 Amy's who work in the JCC movement, who work with older adults. And yes, now I remember it was Amy Eisner, and she's the Adult Engagement Program Manager at Boston JCC. And I have her email right here, and I can email her to say hello. Another quick example, let's say I'm in New York, I work in human resources. There's a new regulation, some kind of new employment law that's coming down the line. and I want to connect with other HR professionals who are also in New York and work in human resources. So I'm going to choose location here. I'm going to choose New York. I'm going to choose operations and human resources. Search. We have 52 people who work in the human resources area in New York State. Let's clear that form. You guys I encourage you to play around with this later on. Let's take a look and see what we have for JCCs. So here we have a list of 172 JCCs that I mentioned. You can scroll through the different pages to find all of them. And there's two things you can do here. One is you can actually learn about a specific JCC. So I'm going to click on Akron in Ohio here. And I see on this page all the various programs and facilities and the populations that they serve are checked off. I can also see all of their staff. I can also see what locations they have. They have one. And I can see their hours and holidays, as well as social media links. Now let's do a search like similar to the one we did with the people. So let's say I'm at a JCC and we want to build electric car charging stations because those are all the rage these days. And I want to connect with other JCCs who have electric car charging stations to find out how great they are. So I'm going to click on expand on the program's facilities and populations. I want to find electric car charging stations here. I'll click search. And here we are. 13 JCCs indicated they have electric car charging stations. So how do we know, or how does this database get populated? We don't have the information. We don't know what each of the 172 JCCs has. Well, each JCC has at least one database admin, sometimes more, who's responsible for providing this information into the database. And to see who the admins are for your JCC, you can click on, you hover over this little icon on the top right, you click My Profile, and if you click on JCC Database Administrators, you'll see a list of the administrators for your JCC. Here we see the administrators for JCC Association. Since we are in My Profile, you can also add some information about yourself, your education, your employment opportunity, and other information. You can take a look at the JCC roles. So these are the roles that are actually your admin at the JCC assigned to you. Please make sure they're correct because other opportunities that are available to you will be based on those. And then in the email lists, you can just subscribe and unsubscribe to the various email discussion lists that Lila had mentioned earlier. I was going to talk about peer communities, but I think Lila did a great job discussing those. So I'll just mention that if you want to contact anybody at JCC, a department at JCC Association, you can click on contact here. And you see the various departments and the emails assigned to them. And of course, if you want to contact Experience, it's experience@jcca.org. So you've heard enough of me speaking. I'm going to hand it off to Usher for an interactive activity.
Cool. So can everybody hear me all right? Awesome. All right. So that was a lot of information to take in. And I think really like the most important takeaway is that all these different like searches and resources, they're at your fingertip 24/7, 365 days. And while we're giving like a very grand overview of the site, we try to make it as user-friendly as possible. We're constantly updating and organizing it in a way to better serve you. And yeah, we want the site to be your one-stop shop. So any suggestions, any resources, anything you want to give us, we're more than happy to sift through. So my colleague Gennady just shared with you the power of defined people in JCCs. If you see me looking this way, it's because my screen is over here and my camera's there, so a little fun. So what we're gonna do now is I'm going to share my screen because that is also all in the rage, similar to electric car chargers. And can you see the screen? Cool. So Gennady mentioned that a big piece of how the database and the find people and JCCs work is based off of sort of information that your admin has inputted there. So one of those, and everybody has this, is a work area and role, and that's connected to a few different things that affects the communications you receive. And I did a little digging before this call. I know, like how dare I, but I found out that there's a few people on this call who are in marketing and communications. There's some youth and teen programming people, human resources. Um, yeah, so there's a wide variety. And what I would like us to do is using the Find People tool, run a search and see how many people are in your work area / role. And then once you get that number, if you could post in the chat, that would be ideal. So let's give it a few seconds. And if you have any questions about like how to get to this page or like what is Crazy Asher saying, then let me know and we can work through it. Okay, 372 in fundraising. It's a good number. It's a lot of people. Let's give it another few seconds. Anyone else come up with a number? You can also unmute yourself if you want to share that way rather than typing it in. 47 in marketing, communications, 230 program directors. That's cool. It's a lot of people. Okay, cool. So those are just like some very large numbers, right? Like 372, 487, 230. And you could also use the search function to narrow it down even further. Let's say you're interested in just talking to marketers from your state. So if you're in San Francisco, you would narrow it down to California. 12 in Jewish living learn. Yeah, we have to get that number up. But yeah, so those 12 or those 372 people, those are your colleagues across the JCC movement who are doing similar things to you day to day. They could be your resource, they could be someone to put your arm around. Anything you need, these are people who are in a similar boat to you across the JCC movement. And that's just one of the parts of the power and the promise of being part of this movement and of being in our database. So now we're going to shift gears, and I'm going to take a deep breath because I'm very excited to talk about the JCC calendar. So we're going to go on a tour day, JCC Movement Calendar, and we're going to talk through some of the key like features, functionalities at like a high level. And I encourage you to like go in, play around, have fun with it, learn how to use the tool better than the overview. So how do you get there? So when you log into the Resource Center, you'll be taken to this page. And the final tile, which I have the honor of sharing with you, is the JCC Movement Calendar. There's two links there. There's the user guide, and there's also the calendar itself. So the user guide is a more detailed explanation into everything I'm going to be talking about, and it's also going to talk about some features and functionalities that I might not get to. So I definitely recommend having a look around in there. You can also get to there. Let's say you're in the arts and culture, staffing and operations library that Lila talked about. There's also a tab for it up here. So anywhere in the site, you can get to the calendar quickly and efficiently. So we open up the calendar and you're like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Why are there so many colors and what's going on here? Well, it's a lot easier than you think it is. So up top, we have just some brief explanations into what exactly you're looking at. So how to browse it, how to search, and again, a link to that user guide. So if we look at this calendar, and something important to note is anything you do to the calendar, such as like searching, filtering, and like even adjusting the view, that view, those adjustments are going to stay like that unless you clear the page. So let's say I set a certain filter and I left the page and I came back to it and I was like, oh my gosh, why is this only showing me program and calls? Why isn't it showing me networking opportunities? That's just because you need to reset the filters each time you use them. So what are some of these? What are we looking at? So the JCC Movement Calendar is comprised of listings relevant to all JCC professionals across the movement. We have listings for events and calls that were advertised in our briefs that we're going to talk about later. We also have scholarship and training cohorts that are offered by our JCC talent folks and the Sheva Center if you're an early childhood professional. We also have networking opportunities both at JCC Association conferences and peer communities, as well as JCC regional conferences and other major continental Jewish organizations. If a conference is happening and it's relevant to you guys, we want to post it here. So we try our best. We also post about grant opportunities that might be of interest to you, as well as data collection, database updating that JCC Association runs. And we also have listings for different holidays and observances, including Jewish and Israeli holidays, US holidays, Canadian holidays, and other non-Jewish faith holidays. So now that we talked about the content that's there, we can go through some of the key features. So starting up top, this magnifying glass is one of two places. Actually, sorry, no, this is the place where you can search for events. You can also adjust the view. So personally, I like to see like the whole month. Some people like to see 4 weeks. Everybody has their own sort of preference, and you can redo the calendars view based on that. The next thing I want to talk about is the different filterings. So if you click on this eye here, it turns off everything, and you can turn it back on. So let's say I am interested in one of these really cool conferences I was talking about. I would deselect everything and I could just select JCC conferences and oh, I can see that there's a regional conference coming up. And if I'm from New England, maybe I'd want to register for that. You can also run the filters by the calendars down here under the filter section. And it's the same thing. You would just select the calendar you're interested in and you could filter for that. You can also filter by keyword. So let's say I wanted to know when Shabbat started, like candle lighting. So I could type in Shabbat and here I see candle lighting and I see also what this week's Parsha is. Another way you can filter this calendar is by audience. So let's say I am a marketer, so if I'm a marketing professional, I could click on marketing and I would see that there's nothing specifically geared towards me this month. But if I click JCC professional, then I would see, oh, there's a ton that are in general for JCC professionals. Next, if we look in any of the calendar listings, we're going to see some things that are pretty consistent across the board and some things that might be special depending on what you're looking at. So let's look at this listing. One of our great Israel Academy seminars. And all the calendar listings are gonna look somewhat similar and also have similar functionality. Let's say you weren't specifically interested in this, but you know of someone who might be. You could actually share this listing with them as a link. The listings will also show you what time. If there's a specific time and date, it'll show you that. It'll also show you what calendar it's under. It'll show you a who, so that's similar to the audience. It'll show you where, if it's online, it will say online, but if there's an actual physical location and we know the address, we'll post the address, or we'll just post the city. It sort of depends what we have on file. And then the description, it's just a brief overview of what the event is. And if it's something from like the JCC world, we'll have links in the resource center to relevant items. We'll also have links to registration pages if that exists. And we'll also have a contact email for you guys to direct questions to. The calendar also has a functionality where you can sync this calendar to your Outlook or your Google Calendar, whatever calendar you use on your computer. And details about that are in the calendar user guide. So that is the JCC Movement Calendar, your one-stop shop for all events JCC related. And now I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I will pass it over to Gennady to talk a bit about briefs.
Thanks, Usher. We have 2 more quick sections to go and then questions. So let me quickly share my screen. So briefs. We have 10 communication vehicles that we use to share information from JCC Association with the field. 9 of them are various types of briefs, and one of them is a JCC alert. JCC alerts go to those staff that deal with security, or more precisely, those who are coded in our databases dealing with security, and they talk about security incidents at JCCs, etc. The type of brief that you get depends on how you're coded in our system. We don't want everybody to get all the briefs because then you'll be overwhelmed. So based on your role and the area that you work in, you will get certain communication. So the pros brief goes to everybody and it has professional development opportunities. The pros brief disability and inclusion edition also goes to all JCC professionals. And then these other briefs, which I'm not going to list, get delivered to JCC professionals based on the roles. To sum it up, they have professional development opportunities, informational calls, grants, conferences, networking opportunities, and also information from our field partners. Pretty self-explanatory. If there's a certain brief that you're not getting, but you'd like to get, please reach out to us. If there's a brief that for some reason you're getting, but you don't want to get, please also reach out to us. And I'm going to hand it off back to Usher for a brief overview of our data collection efforts.
Okay, cool. So let me start sharing my screen. 1 second, I have to get to the right slide. Okay, cool. So I'm going to talk a bit about our surveying, data collection, analysis, and reporting efforts. Similar to what I said when we started to talk about when we did the activity about the people search, there's just so many professionals and there's such a wide variety and depth and breadth of things going on in the JCC world. In JCC Association, we have the unique responsibility of making sure that we are collecting sufficient data on everything that's going on, so that we can be a resource to you guys. So we have surveys that are based around programming, based around membership numbers, staffing, budgets, and practices. Some examples of different surveying efforts we do, and typically the surveys are coordinated through the exec at your organization, and based on the survey, they might ask other staff members to help fill it out, or if there's something where we know like a specific group of people can answer it much. If we know a specific group of people can answer the questions, then we'll just send it directly to them. But I would say 9 times out of 10, it's through the CEOs, through the exec at your organization, and they will sort of decide how to proceed with it. So some examples of data we collect frequently is benchmarking. We run a benchmarking cycle every couple of years to provide data on the health of your JCC. It includes membership, programming, financials, sort of a holistic view on what's going on across the JCC movement. We also do workforce salary surveys, which takes into the account the entire JCC movement workforce. And we sort of run analysis around tenure, around wages based on your region, cost of living, just to provide us and everybody with like a view of what's going on in the workforce across the 172 JCCs we serve. We also produce flash surveys, which are these quick surveys that provide a snapshot in time around a certain topic. So most recently, we did a flash survey about the increase in participation in Jewish programming and Jewish organizations across North America post October 7th. And more recently, we conducted an early childhood census that looked into the operations and other elements of early childhood centers at JCCs. And right now, we just started a brand new software census, which takes a look at the technology, applications, and CRMs JCCs use, how they use it, and basically to help JCCs understand what other people are using and how they use it. And with that, also we provide support for partner organizations on their surveying and data collection effort. So Leading Edge has an employee satisfaction survey that they do. I think now it's every 6 months. But we often help coordinate their efforts in getting a large JCC participation. Will help them in that endeavor. And on that note, if anyone has any questions, I will pass it off to Gennady for some concluding remarks and yeah, to bring us home.
Great. Thank you, Asher. Thank you, Lila. That's the information we have. I know it's a lot and it's kind of dense in some places because there is a lot of resources and opportunities that are available to you guys. If there's any questions, please feel free to speak up or post them in the chat. Of course, if you have questions later, you can always get in touch with us at experience@jcca.org or with us individually. We'll wait a few seconds. You will get a short survey from us either today or tomorrow about this session, and if you attended the previous session as well, would really appreciate if you filled it out. And if there's no questions, we will conclude this call with a big thank you, and have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.